Here we go. Question number 1. Coaches under the age of 50. Who are your top 3 up and coming coaches or coaching legends, but they have to be under the age of 50? So you can't count on Nick Saban because he's knocking on 73?
72, 73.
72? 73? I looked it up today. Joe Paterno coached until his late 70s.
Yes.
Nick Saban's getting close to that. Now, I think he's in a little better health than what Joe Paul was. But, so you can't count him, right? Dabo Swinney.
He's liable to stroke out if another person asks him for $500,000.
Golly, right? Dabo Swinney's in his 50s.
Yep.
That knocks him out, right? So, all right, Chris, I'm going to give you the floor first. Why don't you give me one? Who's your top one? Who's your top guy in the college football coaching world right now under the age of 50 who could become a coaching legend?
Okay, now, first of all, Eric, let me go with this. I only went with head coaches. I'm assuming you did the same.
I did, yep.
Okay. So I think you got to go to Ryan Day. You have to look at Ryan Day.
Number 1?
Number 1.
I
get on him a bit. I do. I get on him about things all the time. But, at the same time, he took the reins at Ohio State in 2019. He's 45-6 in 51 games. That's an 882 winning percentage. Despite his 2 losses to that team up north, he has been to the college football playoff 3 times in the last, or in his 4 years. 3 times in his last 4 years. He has been to a national championship game. And let's face it, by all accounts, he's a couple of bad officiating crews from going to 3 national championship games in 4 years. And I'm telling you, I think he at least wins 1, if not 2 of those. I think if we get past Georgia this year, I think we handle TCU. I think back in 2019, if we get past Clemson, we win the national title.
It's a coin flip with LSU.
But you know what? I feel we have what it took. I think our defense was a big edge there. You look at what his performance is, and I get on him sometimes about being a little conservative, coach him from a point of don't lose the game rather than go out and win the game. But at times, he's proven me wrong, and I think for all my criticism of Coach Day, right now he is the top guy under 50.
Okay. I got one better than him, and I think this can be hard for you to argue this. And as much as we are Ohio State homers and we wear that badge of honor proudly,
I'll bet you've got my number 2 at number 1.
Probably so. I'm going to go here with Kirby Smart.
Oh, no.
He's 47 years old. So he's under 50. He has a record of 81-15, which is a winning percentage of 843. So not as good as Ryan Day's, but he's been a head coach for a few years longer. He's 8-2 in bowl games, Chris, with a 5-1 CFP record and 2 now national championships, and the first one in a long time to go back to back. He's got 2 SEC conference championships. He's been the SEC coach of the year 3 times, and he was the Broyles Award winner for best assistant coach in college football in the year 2009.
And I'm not going to lie to you, Eric. I thought he was over 50.
Did you really?
I really did, and that is why he is not on my list.
He's only 47. Okay, that's scary, dude. He is good.
Very scary.
I think he's got Georgia rolling. I don't know if there'll be an itch for the NFL with him. I don't know or hear from him enough to know if that's going to be a possibility, like it is for possibly for Ryan Day down the road.
Yeah.
But if he decides he's going to stay in Athens, Georgia, if I'm an Alabama fan, I'm scared to death right now because Georgia's got your number. They're out recruiting you in a lot of ways, and they've become the new national power. And
Yeah.
they've done something Nick Satan hasn't done, and that's win back to back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on for that guy, and to think he's only 47.
And I'm with
I
you. Had I realized that, he would be number one. I'm not going to lie to you. He would be number one had I realized that.
I would pick him over, and just straight up, not talking age. If I was an athletic director right now, and you said you could have Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, I'm choosing Kirby Smart right now. And when we do our head coaching rankings this offseason, Chris, for the first time, Nick Satan's not going to be number one on my list.
Yeah.
I think Kirby Smart has dethroned him, given what he's done the last 2 years in a row.
Well, and something I'm going to touch on a little bit later as we enter our last segment, Eric, is I almost feel like the thing about Kirby Smart is I think Nick Saban is at the point where the game is starting to pass him by. I made that little comment there about the fact that he released two recruits based on the fact that they came and asked for money. I think that the portal and the NIL has really taken its toll on Nick Saban.
Let's see here. Before we jump into our next one, let's give Larry Daniels some love here. He says Dave Fickle-Freeman. That's his list. Dave Fickle-Freeman.
Love that Ohio State homer, and you know what? I've got two of those three.
Ooh, okay. Now hold on. I understand Fickle. I don't understand Freeman here. He's had 1 year, okay?
An average year at that.
In that first year, he lost to Marshall. Okay, now I understand he beat Clemson. That was big. He did finish pretty good in his first year. I think as far as first years go, this was a very good learning year for Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
I can't put him in my top three at this moment, though. I would put Fickle over him, although Fickle's not in my top three either. But he's definitely in my short list if I'm an athletic director and I had a blank check and I could hire anybody I wanted. He's definitely on my list. Freeman is not at the moment. He's got to do some more work. Who was your number one then? Or number two? If you had day number one, who was your number two?
I had Lincoln Riley at number two.
Okay,
and I'll tell you, he's you look at him 66-13 record, 835 winning percentage. And in 6 years span, he's produced three of the Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. He's put out Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Caleb Williams in the last 6 years. His offenses are dynamic. I think he's in a very good situation at USC, where I think the Pac-12 is up there. It's right for the picking. I think Utah's power is going to go away this year. I think what we saw with them is something that, Utah's been great, but they're losing a lot of that senior leadership. They're going to lose their quarterback.
Utah has been given the advantage of a very weak Pac-12.
Exactly. I think once Lincoln Riley's in there with his recruits, I mean, we saw him take the recruits that were already there and a few transfers, and he had a pretty successful season this year. I think next year they are a national powerhouse. I really believe that. Lincoln Riley, I think, is a great coach.
He was number 3 for me. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to guess you had Day at 2.
What's that?
Did you have Day at 2?
Yep. I had Smart, Day, and then Lincoln Riley. And then said Brad Olberding here says, give Lincoln Riley some time. He'll have USC back on top. So he agrees with you, Chris. Speaking of my list looks exactly like Ryan Wickerham. He said give Lincoln some time. Here it is. He has Smart, Day, then Riley. So, yeah, my list is exactly like Ryan. So who's number 3 for you then, Chris?
I had Luke Ficklen at number 3. Again, everybody would have bumped down a notch had I realized Kirby was only 47. I mean, that's sad, but that just completely escaped me, yeah. But I've got Luke Ficklen in there. I mean, you look at him, he wasn't at a big-name school, but he brought Cincinnati football to relevance. He went down there in his 5 years at Cincinnati, 48-15, 762 winning percentage, 4 bowl games, 2 wins. He, like the Buckeyes this year, was a field goal away from beating Georgia in the Peach Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
He made got a group of 5 team to the college football playoff for the first time ever. And you look at what he's doing, and not only that, but he's developing coaches. By the way, Marcus Freeman was his, Perry Eliano was his. He's putting coaches in big time programs as well. And you look at him, I think he's in a perfect situation right now at Wisconsin. They're going to appreciate Luke Fickell's brand of smash mouth, tough defense football up there in Wisconsin. They really are. Although, from what I'm seeing, a little bit more about the offensive coordinator he brought on, his offensive coordinator is a little bit more of a run and gun, open it up.
Open it up.
Mm-hmm. And then, he got some great quarterback transfers, including the kid from SMU. He's went in there and already started making an impact with the transfers. He went in, of course, he won his first game with Wisconsin when he coached the bowl game. I just think he is in a perfect situation to succeed right now. I truly believe that the one thing that's going to keep Luke Fickell from being the best coach in the Big Ten is Ryan Day. I truly believe that. Ignore the goofball up north. If he's even there another year from now, it'd surprise me. But and Penn State's going to have a good year this year. But I look at Luke Fickell and I think this guy has the potential to be the best coach in the Big Ten if Ryan Day decides to leave.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, and our predictions will show that to be true. I've got a name for you to finish out this segment. No one's mentioned him. No one's talked about him. He impressed me this year. How about Shane Beamer?
Yeah.
Over there in South Carolina. He's been the head coach there for the Gamecocks for 2 years. He's 45 years old. So
that's some big wins.
Yeah, he had back-to-back top 10 wins against Tennessee and Clemson.
Yeah.
He's 15-11 in 2 years. South Carolina had 2 years in a row they've had winning seasons. That hasn't happened since the Lou Holtz era, maybe.
Yeah.
He's 1-1 in bowls. He's the son of a legend in Frank Beamer, right? Yeah. I just think that there's something going on there that is interesting to keep your eye on.
Here's another good one. You mentioned Tennessee. What about Josh Heupel?
How old's Heupel?
He's only in his early 40s.
Okay. Let's see how he does. Let's see how he continues to build
I mean, he took over Scott Frost's national championship UCF team, and he did well with that. And then
he did,
and then he of course moved up there to Tennessee, and he put them back on the map last year. Let's face it, they're back on the map. But what's he going to do without that talent?
When the quarterback got hurt, what happened? That was, of course, a lot of coaches could say that when they would lose their, all-world starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Let's see how he does in year number 2. Now, there's something going against him. They're in the same division as Georgia and Kirby Smart.
Of course.
So that's going to be Lenny. I don't know if you saw this comment. I got to throw this in there. Lenny Szabo's poking you. Chris, you're advocating for Ryan Day?
Hey, like I said, Lenny, I get on his case a lot. But if you go strictly by the numbers, it's hard to go against that choice. It really is.
Ryan Wickerham. If that team up north beats us again, I think Day is on the hot seat, unfortunately. I don't disagree with that.
Hot seat, if he loses that team up north again, I think somebody needs to grab him by the shorts and give him that the old Woody Hayes treatment and put boots to butts and kick him right out the door.
One more here. Let's Ryan brings up another one. Let's talk about this guy before we go on to our last segment to close the show out. Matt Campbell. Has some steam come off this guy or what? Yeah. He was the hottest young coach. He was going to be the next coach of Michigan, if you remember. did not have a very good year this year, and his all-world quarterback was playing for San Francisco and leading them to the AFC Championship, and this year, not so much. I don't know if he's on a lot of short lists still.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the guy has a lot of coaching talent. I would love to see what he could do with a roster like what the big schools have. The 4 and 5 stars. What an Alabama has, what an Ohio State has, what even that team up north has, or Georgia has. I would like to see what he could do with that kind of talent. But yeah, I think you're right. I think a little bit of shine's come off that diamond, and I think he's probably a top 10 coach under 50 still, but I think he's definitely somewhere slid down to that 7 to 10 range.